In this video, I'm gonna show how you can do an inventory against hard and software inventory data from Checkmk. And I'm gonna show the difference in between of an import of data to the syncer or to inventorize data to the syncer. So at first, what we need is a account in Checkmk, which we can add to the syncer configuration. In Checkmk, you can do that in the setup part. There are users. Then I'm gonna add the user. And I choose that it's gonna be an automation secret. The secret is already in my clipboard. And I'm gonna make it an administrator. In the syncer, I go to accounts, say create, I name it CMK. I'm going to choose that it is a Checkmk version 2. Then I can choose if this is a master or not. Master, this is a function if you have different accounts which import data. You can choose which account will overwrite data from another account. So always the master account is the one overwriting the data. Doesn't matter for this now. The address, we need to copy the address of the Checkmk site. But first I gonna set CMDB syncer here and gonna paste my clipboard in here. I need to set it to enable, and then I copy the address of the site. Just put it here. If I go save and continue editing, I'm gonna see some more settings here. In short, you can, for example, disable the verification of the certificates. You can filter the imports, but that's not important for this video now. All details, of course, you're going to find in the documentation. From there, we can go to the command line. From here, we need to get to the shell of the syncer. That depends on the way of installation. In my case, it's a Docker container, which I run in the developer environment. If you have a local installation, you can do the command CMDB syncer directly. Otherwise, you just switch into the Docker container. This works with helper shell in my case. And from there, it's always the same. You use CMDB syncer. There, the Checkmk part. And one of the commands here is import version 2. With this you can import the data of a version 2 Checkmk. The last parameter is just the account name, as we named it in the step before. Then we hit enter, and it just take a moment. It just took a moment and it imported one device. Since my installation here just has one device. So this one device here is a simple switch. And if you now check the CMDB syncer in the host section, I can see this switch and some data from Checkmk already. But the interesting data here is the hard and software inventory data. This one we can find here. For example, there we have network information and the network interface information. And I want to have this data as well so that I can use it later on to sync it to Netbox. Since there is a lot of data, we need to figure out which we want to import. So there's a configuration in the syncer. If you go to modules, Checkmk, and there you have the Inventorize from Checkmk settings. There you can set up what you do want to inventorize. So about the difference between an import and an inventorize. The import is basically the master of the data, and inventorize you can do from multiple sources. So the import you can run from just one source, and this source gonna manage the labels. But the inventorize data you're gonna see is also a type of labels. The only difference here, you can have multiple of them, and they are prefixed with a special name. So basically they have the account name where you get the data from as a prefix in their name. So we're gonna create, and now we choose what we want to have. We want to have the hard and software inventory, and from there we want to have the interfaces. So the question is how to know that we want to have the interfaces. For that we have a little documentation. I have the direct deep link here. You can find it basically in Checkmk, Inventorize Checkmk, and there it's described how it would look and how you're going to see what key you need to enter. For example, if you export the JSON data, you can see this JSON structure there, and from there you have, for example, software operating system, and like here you could subscribe to software.os. So let's see how we can get the interfaces, but because what I did before was a bit too easy, there is no key interfaces. So let's go step by step. We go back to here. We export this data to JSON. And in this browser, you see that we have node networking, and in there we have interfaces. So let's try with that. Networking.interfaces, save, and then we can go back to the command line. It's again the CMDB syncer. It's again Checkmk, but in this case we have the Inventorize command. So basically every module of the syncer has such kind of Inventorize. Doesn't matter if you go from other CMDBs or if you go from CSV files, JSON data. It's always there. Inventorize hosts again with the account name. And now it takes a little moment, and now if we go back to the syncer and the hosts, we should see inventory data. Sorry, it was a bit fast. Let's go a little step back. I explained before we have the labels and we have the inventory data. Here we had the label from before. This was the import, and only the import source managed this. But here in the inventory we have multiple sources. So for example, we have data from syncer itself. See it with the prefix here. But here, what we just did, we have the Checkmk hardware software inventory, 2 underscores, because this is the namespace. And there we have the network interfaces. This looks a bit wild, yes, but basically we have parsable data, which then can use to export to Netbox. But this then is the topic of the next video. If you have any questions or need support, you can find our links in the description. Then thanks for watching and have a nice day.